Madden is a 7-month-old St. Bernard,
Madden.
and here I am teaching him
Madden.
the first thing I teach most dogs, which is basically just how to learn and kind of my training system and communication words that I want them to know to make it easier to teach them new things.
Get it.
So I'm starting with, I ask his name a couple times, give him a treat. I want the dog to understand that when I say their name, they should look to me for something. Eventually I'll start to use their name to tell them I'm going to have them do something, but I start with just saying their name, give them a treat, so that when they hear their name, they look at me.
Get it.
What I'm also showing him here is the cue that I use to tell him to follow my hand. So I don't want dogs just nagging my hand all the time for food, but I do want them to understand that there are certain times that I do want them to follow my hand. Like when I'm luring them into new positions, when I'm trying to teach really any behavior, I want them to reliably follow my hand when asked, so I can show them the precise position I want them to be in. So I will say, get it, and I will show him the food in my hand and have him follow it a few steps. Once he's followed it a few steps, I will tell him yes, which means that he is released to get the food. So all it is I tell him, get it, I ask him to follow it, he follows it, I tell him that was correct with yes, and I release the food to him.
Yes.
Some dogs are really good at following lures in your hand just to start with. Some dogs give up after a couple steps, or they don't even really want to follow the food in the first place, which makes it difficult to teach complex behaviors or really any behavior. So I teach the following my hand as a specific cue, that is, get it. I'm also showing him here that if I don't tell him to follow the lure, if I don't tell him get it, he should ignore the food in my hand. I don't want him just coming up to my hand and nuzzling me and slobbering on me and trying to chew on my hand just because there's food in it. He has to understand that the only time he is expected to follow the food in my hand is when I tell him, get it, means you're allowed to now follow the food in my hand. You're actually expected to and encouraged to follow the food in my hand. When he goes for my hand without permission, I just tell him no, and I take the food away. So I'm also introducing him to the word no, which means that what you did was incorrect. Your reward that you were expecting is going to go away. No can also mean you're going to get some kind of consequence, like any color tap or a pop on the leash, but here it just means that the food that you want is going away. I'm starting to use get it to lure him into a sit. I ask for little increments at first. If you noticed, I didn't get him all the way to the sit at first. I just told him yes and released the food to him when he lifted his head up. I did that a couple times, and then he realized that he was supposed to do that awkward position of his head going up, and he was more willing to follow it with more intent and follow through and get into a sit.
Good.
Here I'm introducing him to the word good. Good is similar to yes in that it means what he's doing is correct, a reward is coming. However, yes means that he's released from the command, from the position to get food from my hand. Whereas good means he isn't released. He is expected to stay in the same position or doing the same thing he's currently doing. The reward will come to him. So I say good, I bring the treat to him. I say yes, I want him to get up, out of sit, come to me and follow my hand.
Good. Yes.
He was really sharp with that, so now I'm introducing the word to him. So I'm going to tell him to sit, and then I'm going to follow with the lure. So what I'm doing is showing him that when I say this word, now here is this hand signal that you already understand, which means your butt goes on the ground. I'm always going to say the word first before I give the already known signal. If I give the already known signal, the hand motion upward, at the same time I say sit, he is going to ignore me saying sit and focus on the hand signal, and he's not going to learn the verbal word sit. I need to say sit first and then make the motion that he already knows so that he can make the connection between the word sit and the motion of my hand and the action of putting his butt on the ground.
Yes.
After a few repetitions, he will figure out that
Sit.
whenever I say sit, I follow with that hand motion, so he should just anticipate him going to be putting his butt on the ground, and he should just do it when I say sit. And then I can remove the handler.
Yes.
So I'm telling him sit. When I say sit, I expect him to stay in a sit.
Sit.
I don't ask for a stay. I want him to stay in a sit
Good.
until released. So that is why I am saying good,
Good.
good, bringing the treat to him, and then releasing him from a sit with yes,
Good.
and getting the food from my hand.
Yes. Sit.
Because he picked it up so quickly, I am very quickly moving on to just saying the verbal and seeing if he can figure it out.
Good.
You see there, it didn't take immediately. I didn't say sit and he immediately put his butt on the ground. I said sit,
Yes.
and I didn't immediately help him. I wanted to see if he would do it if he thought about it. He wants food from me. He knows that to get the food, he has to do something.
Sit.
So I will let him think about it for a few moments and figure out, hey, what have we been doing?
Yes.
A lot of, just before this. Well, I've been doing a lot of putting my butt in the ground. Well, she said that word that she was saying before she gave me the motion, that means put your butt in the ground. So maybe when she says that word, it means put my butt in the ground. He does it
Yes.
a couple times. It takes him a couple seconds the first few times because he's thinking. I like that. I want him thinking on his own. I don't want to have to baby him through everything. And I don't want to have to keep giving him hand signals when he doesn't need them.
Get it.
You can see that after I gave him a few seconds to think, the first couple of times I asked for a sit, he becomes much quicker.
Sit. Good.
Obviously, he's not quick each time, but this is still fairly new to him.
Good.
He'll sit if you have a treat in your hand and you're making it obvious to him, but he's not used to sitting without having a treat held in front of his face. So he's having to think, hey, this word means the same thing, even when there's not a treat right in front of me over my nose. He picked up stay pretty naturally, as a lot of larger breed dogs tend to do. So I am not having much trouble with him on that aspect.
Good.
See, I'm letting him think,
Good.
and when I let him think, he makes a good choice. So I'm not going to help him out unless he were to wander off, I would get his attention again, or if he seems stuck, or if there's a distraction, he may just not be paying attention to me,
Good.
and I'll want to give him extra help. But in this situation, he is focused on me, and it's a very good time to let him just think. And here I am testing his stay.
Good.
I am showing him a piece of food, holding it out in front of him.
Good.
He can get up and try to get it. If he does, I will say no, the food will go
Good.
away, and he will be asked to sit again.
Yes.
But you can see he figured out pretty quickly that if he just keeps his butt on the floor, he's going to get the food.
Good.
He says, this is great, all I have to do is just sit here, not even have to do any work, and the food will come to me.
Nope.
Placed a piece of food on the ground, right in front of him.
Good.
He still can't get up and get it. The only thing that will release him from sitting, that will release him to get the food that he wants, is yes.
Good.
If I say good and there's food on the floor, that does not release him to get the food on the floor. It means that I can pick up the food and bring it to him, or give him a pat on the head, but if he gets up after I say good, that will pretty much cancel out the good, and I will have to ask him to sit before telling him good and bringing the treat to him again. End of session, he gets cuddles.